Hey guys, my name's Morgan. Today I'm just going to be walking you through what is a parent-child relationship on Amazon. Now, this does refer to the ASIN identification number. So yeah, let's jump into it. Um, so, parent-child ASIN relationships on Amazon. Essentially, what is an Amazon ASIN? So, an Amazon ASIN is a standard identification number. It is 10 characters long and it can include numbers and letters. So, every single product that is listed on Amazon will receive a unique identifier. This allows both sellers, advertisers, and customers to identify the products which they're really looking for. One fact about this is no two items will be the same on Amazon. So we'll have the same ASIN. However, just be aware that sometimes you will come across an ASIN for a book, which is actually called an ISBN number. Now, this does look very different. However, it does serve the same purpose. Now, most ASINs on Amazon will start with this B0 at the start, almost all of them, with the exception of the books. So let's dive a bit deeper. What is a parent ASIN? So a parent ASIN is essentially the ASIN which groups together product variations, which are known as child ASINs. So essentially, they're an abstraction of all of the child ASINs, which typically vary by things like color, size, and flavor. And that's just an example. There's obviously many more which could separate out different variations of a product. So you might have a multi-pack of one product, or essentially a multi-pack or a single pack. But yeah, I guess that's really up to the seller as to how they want to separate these out. This is something that you can easily identify via business reports. So if you were to go onto your Amazon business reports, you can easily see the list of your parent ASINs, the child ASINs, and essentially the sales which have been attributed to which. So moving on to what a child ASIN is. A child ASIN can come in a variety of sizes. Each color and size combination is called a child ASIN. And exactly like the parent ASIN, they will receive an identification number unique to that product variation. The layout of the parent ASIN and the child ASIN is very similar. So they won't look different to the eye, but they will always be different products. So ways you can identify your child ASINs. So when you're trying to create one, you can always go onto the Amazon catalog as an Amazon seller, and click on add a product in Seller Central. If the product isn't already there, as mentioned before, you will need to create a new one. But for existing ASINs, as mentioned before, you can always locate these on the business reports. And something that I think is really important to note about the child ASINs is when it comes to child ASINs, they are essentially what you're going to be advertising. So you can't advertise directly a parent ASIN. You would advertise the child ASIN. So a really good way to monitor the performance of each of these products would be to go to the products tab on Campaign Manager. Here you can see metrics such as your ACoS, your click-through rates, the spends, the sales, all of which are really helpful in dictating the strategy as to which child ASIN do you really want to focus on getting exposure for, and essentially where do you want to focus on putting some ad spend next? What products do you want to get good exposure for? And some metrics I think are really good to look out for this would be things like click-through rates, conversion rates, which you can also find on brand analytics on Amazon. So all of which are very important, and can identify different aspects of the child ASIN. So I guess the main difference between a parent and a child ASIN is that you can't buy a parent listing. So the parent listing is just that number which really groups together your child ASIN. So I've just put a screenshot here. The t-shirt, let's say this is an Adidas t-shirt. And the Adidas t-shirt will have its parent listing, and this might be for some t-shirts within their running range. Within this, you can have your child ASINs for, let's say this is for the black t-shirt or the blue t-shirt and the pink t-shirt. And then these will be the other size variations of this. So with your child variations, you can actually have almost a tree as represented here of different variations. And I've just got a listing up here which really illustrates this well. So when you're on an Amazon listing, you have your different trainers here, and Adidas have chosen to put all of their trainers onto one listing, as these are all going to be the Under Armour Men's Surge free running shoe. And then these are just the different colors here. So naturally, they'll have a different one for another shoe range, which has a variation of lots of different colors. They've actually got 32 here, which isn't something you typically see from your everyday seller. And then you also have the different sizes. So as you can imagine, if we were to draw this out on a graph like this, it could get really complex. So something I'd recommend for sellers who obviously aren't going to be as big as Amazon is to really think about how you separate these products out. You might have, let's say, for instance, you're selling iPhone cables. You might have your Lightning cables, and you might have your standard USB port ones for older model iPhones. So I definitely recommend separating these out, and then child ASINs of that might be the different lengths of the cable. Or maybe if you're buying a 1-pack or a 2-pack. So you could have here your USB port cable. Here you could have your 1 meter. Here you could have 2 meter. And then here you could have 2-pack, 1-pack, 2-pack, 1-pack. So really how you separate them out can influence the exposure in which your products are getting, how buyers are going and customers are going to be finding that product, and ultimately what drives that decision. What exact product do they want? Is it easy enough to find? So each child ASIN will naturally have different PPC targeting due to these attributes. So as I mentioned before, PPC targeting, which is the pay-per-click advertising model which Amazon offers, is very powerful, as I'm sure you would have seen on previous videos. But they're naturally going to have different targeting, because if I'm searching for a large men's blue running shoe, or a size 11, should I say, I'm not going to want to click onto that and end up on the pink women's size 5. Really it's just about having that niche targeting to each of these product variations. And what you will find is the more targeted and direct that targeting option is, especially on the keyword basis, the more likely you are to see those high click-through rates and conversion rates, and ultimately a lower advertised cost of sales, which is what most sellers will use to dictate the performance of a given ad. So an example of sort of a parent-child product listing would be a customer searching for a size 10 black running trainers. And they might click on the product detail page for the running shoes, as we've shown here. And then they just have that option again to just go between these different variations. Which one do I like best? And then they can see all the different sizes and so forth. And Amazon even here have offered a size chart. So really just making that buying process as simple as possible for the customer. And something you'll see quite often is the main product that you might be seeing might be the most neutral color, as this might naturally have the best organic placements on the listing page. So that organic placement is the placement in which your product falls under a keyword or within a category that isn't dictated by, or which isn't under a sponsored ad slot. So a really powerful placement for getting those really profitable sales, making sure that you're not spending additional costs on getting that advertised, but ultimately you're going to want to keep them advertised as well, because that's how you're going to get exposure and increase your click-through rate and exposure for that given keyword. And the more conversions you would get for that under a PPC click, the more Amazon's algorithm is going to give your product that organic lift. And that's ultimately every seller's dream. So just some best practices for creating the parent-child listings is, what you don't want to do is list different products together. So just going back to this page here once again, I know you're probably sick of seeing the Under Armour shoes, and I did mention Adidas earlier on, so you'll have to excuse me for that. But what you wouldn't want to see here is if I've searched for, let's say, the black running shoes for men, I wouldn't want to then see loads of t-shirts, maybe some tracksuit bottoms, and maybe some different sizes. And you might think, well, why wouldn't I put these on the same page? And ultimately, it's going to maybe give that buyer too many options, and they might click away. And ultimately, you can only appear for one child ASIN within a search term. So if I was to search for Under Armour black men's running shoe, you'd only be able to find one of these images here, or one of these products within the listing. So this is a really important fact to take in when you're deciding, how do I want to divvy up these parent-child relationships. So if there is one product which is organically ranked for Under Armour men's shoe, black running shoe, or gym shoes, and this one is ranked the highest, and the rest of these products, let's say, aren't on that same listing, and you want to get them that exposure, if they are the same product, you can put them onto that same listing, and people who are clicking through onto this product will straight away be able to see the rest of this range. And ultimately, it's a really effective tactic for getting exposure to those other variations which might not be clicked through the most. What you might find as well, people might click through onto this the most, but this could be the best seller. So there's no telling. And that's why it's really important to monitor the performance and that customer buy journey and how they get to that product. Another would be to use variation themes for their defined purpose. So as we can see on that listing we were just on, the variation themes would be, it's a running shoe and it's of that model as well. So if you're a brand that has lots of running shoes, I would recommend really putting that same model of running shoe under the same listing, and then having those child variations for the colors and the sizes. Then you could have another shoe, and then maybe you're doing some tracksuits as well, and I'd follow that same structure there for sure. So to properly describe the child listings, so we can see here, it's got the colors here, and you can actually go into more depth with this. You could say what shades of green, like they've said here, it's a lime serge. So people who might be really picky with their outfits, and they might have a lime serge top, they might want something where they can really look the part in the gym or on their run and have that color coordination, and ultimately that extra level of detail, which is just going to make it more clear and obvious to the buyer where they would want to, or what they would want to buy. So the properly describing the child listings, this doesn't just go for the titles, and this is also the bullet point descriptions as well. So this will be on the parent ASIN level. So what about this product is really going to help a customer make that decision? Is it the right buy for them? And how can I really effectively convey what makes my product better than the other competitors? And ultimately, you want to be competitive on the price, and you just really want to give that buyer as much information as possible so they have no second doubts and they're confident in your brand. And you can also have your A+ content as well, which is really if you're not doing it as a seller, it's crucial to really getting the Amazon's algorithm to favor your products, because they're going to give your listing as a much stronger listing score. Ultimately, that's just going to help with ranking all over, and that's really what you want to be seeing. So you've got the product descriptions, the product details, and then on the variations, that's really where you can dive into what makes each variation different. I think the sizes are a given, but just going back to the colors, you can see here, and sort of where I've just clicked onto that different size as well, we can see which is available and what's not available. So it's you can be really creative with this and just make it as effective as possible. So do not introduce large variation families. Now, this is something that Under Armour have done, and as mentioned previously, I wouldn't recommend doing this for small brands, just due to the fact that if your brand name isn't carrying as much sort of weight as the Under Armour might, let's say you're a more new running shoe brand, you might just want to keep it for 3 different colors of each shoe, where you can really get that organic placement exposure, because as mentioned, you can only actually appear for one child variation under a parent listing for each keyword. So if you found a longer tail keyword like men's running shoe for people with extra long legs, something that's going to have a cheaper CPC, and you really want to go after that, I'd recommend maybe breaking out some of your child variations onto different parent listings so you can rank for two of those products under that same keyword. And that's really the power of sort of learning how to manipulate that parent-child relationship. The next would be sort of do not list hard bundles. So hard bundle occurs when one ASIN includes multiple components, but the components are not individually available for sale on Amazon. So yeah, really it comes down to that. When we went on that size 9, there's a lot that are unavailable. So if you can avoid that, it's definitely something that's worth doing. But an example of this would be a perfect example of a setup is a camera that includes a camera set that includes a camera with multiple lenses and attachment pieces that don't come with it. So yeah, not only do you want to avoid having those out of stock issues, but just make sure that if you were to have, let's say, one and it was the running trainer and it showed some laces that you get with that, make sure that that product has the laces. Or if you did have a bundle with the running shoes with extra laces, I'd recommend breaking them out to the listing where you just have the running shoes on their own. It's not going to confuse the customer. You're less likely to get that negative review. Yeah. And then why not just separate out the listings? So you probably wondered when I was talking about when we're only one child variation under a parent can rank or appear organically and sponsored for a keyword. So one reason for this is the review. So if you've done a product launch and you have those 3 variations under one parent, or you've broken them out individually under sort of one parent, one child, if one of those products naturally might sell a lot better than the others, it's probably going to get more reviews. And if those reviews are really positive and strong, you might want to group those other products together, because that's just going to make that product, when that appears under a particular keyword that might be more applied to its niche, it's going to have more reviews. It's going to look more appealing. And if those reviews are strong, you'd really want to group them together to give those other products the boost. And this is what I'm talking about with sniper products. So in most cases, you're going to have one child variation that's going to sell a lot more. And this is going to help you get that ranking and exposure. And well, mainly exposure for the other child variations and really help with the rankings. And then I guess you could argue that on the flip side as well. So if one of the variations has some really negative reviews, you might want to separate that out. So if you were to take that out onto its own listing, it might almost disregard it in a sense, but that could really bring up the review ratings. So if, let's say, it went down to 4 stars here and I identified that this product here had a really bad review, maybe I break that out and it goes back up to 4.5, and ultimately that's going to really affect the rest of these products. So it's really dictating how can I manipulate the relationships. Are they suitable together? But yeah, I guess that's it from me. I hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to seeing you soon.